in the 13th Parliament. Actually, he says he is one of the longest serving members of Parliament. Thank you so much for coming tonight and sharing your perspective, and I want to wish you well as my friend. Asante sana. And as I mentioned before, Kenya has dropped to position 116 in the latest World Press Freedom Ranking. Now, this comes as the government affirmed its commitment to press freedom. Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki, whose ministry, by the way, recently banned journalists like many of us from covering the Shakahola massacre, also wants better working conditions for journalists in the country. Miriam Angel with a report on the World Press Freedom Day, which is marked on the 3rd day of May every year.
Kenya's position in the global World Press Freedom Rankings improved from 103 in 2021 to 69 in 2022. This year, Kenya's rankings has dropped to 116 globally. In the past few months, we have had demonstrations that have seen journalists get attacked and tear-gassed for covering the ongoing demonstrations by the Azimio team. A recent infringement being the Shakahola massacre ban on the media from actively reporting on the site.
In the whole of these skirmishes, the media is being targeted seriously for attack. The other day and even today, several journalists have been injured, very seriously injured today by tear gas canisters which have been thrown left, right and center.
There is vicious attack on the media. Water cannons on cameras. I haven't seen anything like that. Tear gas directly at the media vehicles. And today, injuries with the media. So the media has become a target.
The World Press Freedom Day on Wednesday saw media practitioners and stakeholders come together for the annual media summit. The theme for this year's summit was shaping a future of rights, freedom of expression as a driver for all other human rights. While calling for a stop in the violation of journalist freedom, Kenya Editors Guild President Zubeida Kananu said media freedom is increasingly under a threat.
Journalists must be allowed to exercise their constitutional right to do their professional work. The second issue is the connection between the rights of citizens to freely consume media content and the rights of journalists to freely access information and make it available to the public consumption. All too often, these rights are threatened by forces who want to control what the public should know and at the same time impose restrictions on what information journalists can access.
While calling on journalists to prioritize the need of the nation, Broadcasting and Telecommunications PS Edward Kisiangani assured journalists that the government would continue protecting the freedom of the press, with Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki saying journalists deserve better pay in order to perform effectively.
The Kenya government will continue protecting press freedom. It will help the media. Despite the provocations, it is not going to close media houses. It will make media houses grow. It will discuss with media houses to see how they can save jobs.
Wale wanawaajiri, nikasema ile kazi mnafanya kama journalist ni kazi ngumu, kazi kubwa, kazi ya kujitolea. Nikaambia wadozi wenu pia wawafikirie, waongeze.
In a message to the press, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the freedom of the press is under attack worldwide. He called on different governments to stop the threats and attacks on journalists, stating that freedom of the press is the foundation of democracy and justice.
Press freedom represents the very lifeblood of human rights. But in every corner of the world, freedom of the press is under attack. Truth is threatened by disinformation and hate speech seeking to blur the lines between fact and fiction, between science and conspiracy. Stop the threats and attacks. Stop detaining and imprisoning journalists for doing their jobs. Stop the lies and disinformation. Stop targeting truth and truth tellers. As journalists stand up for truth, the world stands up with them.
Miriam Angel, KTN News.
The United Nations is